everyone, my listeners. Welcome to today's podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Chelsea Beegling. We will be discussing on purpose, alignment, and psychology, and especially looking at leadership, which is very fundamental why I wanted to create this podcast in the first place. So welcome.
Thank you,
Chelsea.
Could you
describe to the listeners what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Elevareum, which is a business and leadership development business. So I do coaching and development, either in person, but I'm also developing a bunch of online courses as well, mainly because when I came up through leadership, there weren't that many leadership programs which were focused on the human element of leadership, and my background is in psychology, so I really wanted to create something that was really human for leadership development.
That's really lovely. So it's the perfect combination of
Yeah, I think so.
And now a little bit of the surprise one, or to add depth. Who are you?
Who am I? Without
too much
essential question.
That's true.
So I'm a psychologist first and foremost. I'm also Australian. I moved to the UK about a year ago just for travel.
It's quite fresh.
Yes, but absolutely love it. It's just so much closer to the world over here. But I also get to meet so many great people over here. And that's something that also makes up who I am, is that I would call myself a bit of a seeker and a learner, which is just a seeker of new experiences. I am always wanting to learn new things. I enjoy doing things that scare me. I mean, enjoy is a strong word, but I always want to grow and kind of add things to my own personal repertoire. So, I guess in a nutshell, that would describe me.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Learning and growing.
Yeah.
Don't miss the sunshine.
Well, you know what?
You love it here.
I know. Well, we come from Queensland, which is supposed to be the sunny state, and it is the sunny state in Australia. But we have had the most amazing weather here for the past year. I know that the English probably wouldn't agree with me. Some people say that we had a really wet summer and a really cold spring, but coming from Australia, we're told that you kind of led to expect that it's going to be raining every single day here and grey. So I think the fact that it's actually been so sunny and not that wet, and funnily enough, Queensland has had twice as much rain as London has in the last year. They're in like an opposite kind of weather cycle at the moment. So we've actually lucked out with the weather. We're getting more sunshine than back home. So yeah, we're lucky.
Okay, so it's all good after all.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's something that people got it wrong in thinking, oh, UK is that's always rainy.
Yeah,
it's just great.
No,
rainy.
Stunning.
So you mentioned you started your career in psychology. How did the early days look like?
Yeah.
And why did you actually choose that field?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because when I left high school, going back to the beginning, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I felt directionless. That was the first time I felt directionless. I didn't know what I wanted to do, which is really disheartening when you have so many people around you who are like, oh, I'm going to be a vet or I'm going to do this. And, they really knew what they wanted. I had no idea. And I went to uni and I just started out in a Bachelor of Arts, just something that was really broad. The uni I went to, you could do subjects from any discipline. And I had a friend that I went to high school with. She always wanted to be a psychologist. I didn't even know what psychology was at that point. It wasn't, a subject that I had at school. I know it's in some schools now, but I'd never really had exposure to it. And so I chose psychology as an elective, as well as a few other subjects, and I just fell in love with it. And it wasn't even that I wanted to become a psychologist. I just found it so interesting, so fascinating. I remember learning like brain anatomy and how it impacts you as a person and your behaviors and your actions. And I just found it fascinating. So yeah, I went and I changed into a Bachelor of Psychological Science and I got that degree. And then I went out into the world, not as a psychologist. I worked as a rehab counselor for a while. And then after a couple of years was like, okay, I'm going to go back and become a psychologist. Not ever because I wanted to actually do like therapy. I just knew that it would open a lot more doors for me becoming a psychologist, and it did. So yeah, I really always followed the path just because I found it so interesting. And I always remember my sister telling me, just choose subjects at school. Just choose subjects that you enjoy because you're going to do well at them. Because people were choosing subjects to get a better, better grade to get into uni and things like that, like chemistry and physics and things like that. But I just always went with what interested me, and I've continued that forever. And I've just always found it fascinating and interesting and so deeply personal and human. So yeah, that's why I ended up as a psychologist and doing psychology.
That's a great journey.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard when you're in that early stage. There's so much pressure that you need to choose something to then provide for yourself. Yeah. And then what do you even know at that age? It's really hard.
Yeah. I remember our deputy principal or something saying at like 15, tomorrow you're having, a meeting with the guidance counselors or something, and you need to know what you're doing. For the rest of your life. I'm like, we're 15, sir.
Do we ever know what we're doing anyway?
Exactly. So yeah, it is daunting, but that's some good advice though. It's just follow what you're interested in if you're ever a bit directionless. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how did that then shape you into this journey of leadership? How did the early days look?
Yeah. So when I became a psychologist, to do that, I had to do therapy, and I did end up doing that for quite a few years. I was mainly a child and adolescent psychologist with a few adults. But concurrently, I continued working. I kind of did that part-time, and I continued working in like a medico-legal business, which is my background, kind of bread and butter. It's just where I started after uni, and I continued that. And in that business, I started being offered management and leadership opportunities. And I really started to see, I guess, the back end of how a business was run, and started to be exposed to more management opportunities. And so I actually ended up leaving therapy work altogether to work in more management and leadership positions, still within a health business, within like psychology and occupational therapy. And I just progressed through management roles and, went on this kind of leadership journey, which I really loved, but it was also very daunting because the reason I was promoted into management positions was just because I was good at my technical job. I had...
Like most people, actually.
Yeah.
I think that.
Exactly. And so I got into management, not having any management experience, but I was like, okay, I don't really know how to do this. And also, one of my first jobs was out of uni was a very toxic workplace, and I had this very toxic boss who he, turned us into machines in a way because we were just made to just work and work and work. But then when I became a manager myself, he was my role model, and I was like, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be this toxic the boss who is just working people to the bone and treating them just terribly. On the surface, it looked like he was treating us well, but really it was not good. And so that's why I had such a big journey, because I had to unlearn these habits or how to not be like him and try and be more of the leader that I wanted to be. So that's why it was, I guess, a real journey, but that's also how I ended up in leadership as well. I just was really attracted to it. And it's so human as well. It turns out that psychology is so relevant in leadership as well.
Yeah, that's very true. I think I had very similar journey to you. Yeah, my first job after uni was also such a toxic team, toxic boss. Yeah, and you think, oh my gosh, do I need to be like this to succeed? Yeah. And then that is your reference, but in a way we learn something maybe what not to do.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's tough. It's almost like parenting, like you learn how to parent from your own parents. So if you haven't had great modeling or something, it's really hard to break out of those kind of cycles. So it was difficult, but it also led me where I am now, and why I want to help educate people on how to get to that point, the leader that you want to be.
And looking at those early stages, how did you decide, I need to unlearn that, or I need to shape into that? How did you realize what the teams need from you?
I think to start with, I was doing what now I wouldn't really do, which was more maybe telling people what to do and feeling like I had to control everything and I wasn't doing a good job if I wasn't controlling. I also felt like I had to have all the answers, and that was really challenging because I wanted so bad to do a good job, but I felt like if I didn't have the answers for my team or my own bosses, that I wasn't doing a good job. And I've, now learned that that's not actually your job as a leader. You're there to support people. It is so valuable to be empathetic and be curious with people as well. And, different people need different things. A lot of people need empowerment. Some people need reassurance. So it's really different things for different people, but being able to have, I guess, the self-awareness and a bit of the emotional intelligence to try and pick up on like, okay, this person needs this from me or this person needs that from me. There's not really a blanket rule that's going to work for every single person. But definitely just not having all the answers, I think, was the biggest thing I had to get over.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's really useful actually to have this psychology background because you understand humans, and as a manager, you're working with humans. So I think generally everyone I know that's become a manager, they actually have no people skills, not from learned people skills. And that's such a big trouble in today's society.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm trying to change or, revolutionize with Elevareum. It's that I want people to understand that businesses are human. Even if your business has nothing to do with health or psychology, even if you are, I don't know, making a product, you're in manufacturing or something, your business is still ultimately run by humans. It's led by humans. And that's why I want to create education which helps people with those kind of people skills and understand how to have and run a business optimally without, having people without being bad to your people, basically. You want to have an optimal business performance, but you also want your people to perform optimally for themselves professionally, but also personally. They aren't machines. They're very human. And I think that we're finally in the space in the world where we are starting to see that shift a bit with, a lot of, we talk so much about like vision and purpose now and things like that. And I think that all ties into where we're headed with leadership as well, which is I'm so happy that that's finally happening. We aren't machines.
True. I think what also sparked in my mind is that we see also this difference, I think, in generations. I think this younger generations is saying more, oh, actually, I don't want to just be in my job.
Yeah.
There's more to life.
Yeah.
I think there's also now managing this vision, this alignment.
Yeah.
How would you go about managing, for example, like a younger generation? How do we keep them actually motivated to be in their job?
Yes, exactly. And it's tricky because I have spent time. So I am co-owner of a medico-legal business back in Australia. And, my co-owner is a different generation. She's older than me. She's closer to retirement age. And so we've always had such different views or perspectives. I mean, we get along so well and we've complemented each other. But I've definitely seen those generational differences. And then we hire people who are in younger generations as well. And we've had to really work and change things that maybe weren't even normal for us, but work for those younger generations to feel connected to work and want to come to work and be motivated. And a lot of that has been around flexibility, but also having them more connected to the business as well, having them in alignment with the business's vision and purpose. And it doesn't mean that they have to share the exact same vision and purpose as the business. There's a lot of things that you can do to get everyone on your team involved in those kind of things to have them more connected and all working towards a shared goal. So, I've definitely seen firsthand, I guess across the generations that are in the workforce, how leadership styles differ, but also how people are working differently. And you do have to kind of adapt to what people are used to or what people want. So it's I find it fascinating, really.
How has your leadership style evolved over time? I think it's changed. Especially you mentioned that toxic first experience. Did that shape you in any way?
Yeah, definitely. The experience with the toxic workplace, it was rewarded for just working yourself into the ground, basically, you know, given big bonuses or bought, you know, material things like designer bags and things like that. Like it was this very like, oh, you do more, I give you more. But then at the same time, you would have things like ripped away from you very quickly, or it was almost like this anxious attachment style. You're like, oh my God, you always feel insecure. So I guess the way that it shaped my leadership style, on the one hand, you know, I will always credit my work ethic, I think, in part to that workplace, because it turns me into somebody who, if I need to work like a machine, I can. That's not healthy long term, but sometimes you got to, you know, get on the grind and just get something out. And I'm grateful for that component. But and I guess it also taught me what I don't want to be in a leader. And so then to shape my own leadership style, like I said, I had to unlearn those habits. And then I also had a really great mentor who is the co-owner of the other business, and she was just a complete opposite. You know, she is a complete opposite. She's warm, she's empathetic, and you know, I started to learn from her. I also sought out my own studies, so I actually went and started an MBA, and I did that because I became so interested in business that I really wanted to upskill. I actually finished that 75% of the way through. Like I left with a grad dip in business admin or something instead of the full MBA, because I realized that what I was learning in the course, which was more the hard leadership skills, it's, you know, how to do marketing, how to do HR, how to manage finances, that kind of thing, I learned more of on the job. And so I just felt like completing it, which is going to be a very expensive exercise and more time, I actually feel like I'm learning far more on the job. But I still am thankful for going through that experience. So, you know, I did some actual formal education, but then honestly, most of it is on the job. And I would also say that I have learned from every single person I have ever managed or led, from anyone, you know, the cleaner in our business. Like I would make such an effort to like say hello to them, have a conversation with them, like make them feel part of the business. You know, the admin team, you know, I'd make sure that they felt just as involved in things as the managers that I was leading and things like that. So I'm always really grateful to everyone I've ever managed or led, because they've all taught me something in some small part about how to be a good leader. So yeah, there's been a lot of things that has shaped it. But yeah, and I've learned a lot about myself along the way as well as my leadership. So yeah, it's been a really interesting and challenging but fun journey.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
And I think what you mentioned about the MBA is so true. I've noticed that as well, that the majority of courses out there, even for leadership, are all just the hard skills.
Yes.
What about the soft skills?
Yeah.
Aren't that actually the most important ones to even be a conscious leader?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, that's why I'm trying to develop these courses with Elevareum that focuses more on those soft skills, because when I was looking for what to study as a leader, and even as our other managers came up through my other business, they were like, what training can we do? What formal training can we do? And honestly, I didn't have much to recommend them, because it was all formal things like, oh, you could do a certificate for in leadership or a diploma in this or a grad dip in this. But just from my own experience, I knew that they weren't actually going to learn the skills that they really needed. So we always invested a lot in like mentoring and leadership programs ourselves, because that's how they kind of learned. And it also means that the leadership stays quite consistent in the business. So I guess hard leadership skills courses have their merits. But yeah, for me personally, and from what I've seen and experienced on the job, and then the human skills is so much more important to being an effective leader for both the people you're leading and the business.
Yeah. And then, so for someone who doesn't have the opportunity to like a psychology course, how would you advise them to go around, in a way, becoming more human? Or more human aware, how to deal with other people?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that makes a more effective leader is self-awareness. Developing self-awareness is something that you can do. The trouble is that the people who usually need to develop self-awareness aren't self-aware enough to realize.
This is why I was asking, how do you not reach people to be humans?
Yes. But there are several, there are, you know, online quizzes and things you can do. I'm developing some for Elevareum because I want people to I guess, find out what their strengths are as well as what their blind spots are. And that was actually one thing that I did in the MBA, which I probably found the most valuable, is that they got you to do an assessment of yourself as well as people assessing you, like the people that you led. And that increased my own self-awareness. You know, there are things that I rated myself highly on that people rated me a little lower on. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and for me, that was actually empathy, like, because I thought I was really like empathetic. But I think it was a bit of a hangover from these old habits where I still hung on to a little bit of like, okay, well, that's nice that you need time off, but, you know, we need to get this report out or something. And so thankfully that was, you know, relatively early on into my journey. But those kind of things really help increase self-awareness. So if there are the opportunities to get like objective assessments, that's great. But the same for emotional intelligence and just having insight as well. And the emotional intelligence isn't just about your self-awareness. It's about how your communication or interactions with other people has an impact on them and, you know, their reactions. So those are some, emotional intelligence and self-awareness are so important in leadership and probably the most human things that you need to be effective and to have people want to follow you as well and trust you.
Yeah, I think those are skills that overall are so valuable.
Yeah.
We really need them in at workplace, relationships.
Yeah.
How do we form this connection as well?
Yeah.
That's really genuine.
Yeah,
Definitely. Do you feel this learning and your journey into leadership has also affected you personally?
Yeah.
Has it changed too?
Yeah, definitely. I think first and foremost, it taught me so much about the importance of vision and purpose and being in alignment. And I think all of those words in recent years, you know, kind of are buzzwords, but they're kind of buzzwords for a reason, and they have real merit behind them, like hard psychological science research behind why they are so important. And I first started working on values and vision and purpose through a business lens that I learned through like business coaches and mentors. And at the time, when you first start doing those things, they feel a little bit, I don't know, like a bit airy-fairy or something, where you're like, as if these are going to matter, you know? But over time, you actually start to see how valuable they are and how important they are in guiding you and how it makes decisions easier, and how having that end goal and that direction just makes everything so much easier, and having purpose, because it helps you overcome challenges. It helps you bounce back from setbacks a lot easier, because you're not just focusing on the results for today or tomorrow. You are focusing on a long-term goal that is maybe 10 years away. So a little bump in the road is nothing, you know, you're like, oh, that's fine. That didn't work. We're going to try another tactic or something. And then that, I guess, translated into my personal life. And I spent a long time trying to figure out my own vision, what my real core values are, and also what my purpose was. And, you know, it probably took me like 2 or 3 years to really land on what that is. And that's what Elevareum was born from. I wanted to do something that I was truly connected to, truly passionate about, and something that really motivated me. And yeah, so I think that that's probably the most, the biggest way in which leadership has impacted my personal life, just through learning those things and seeing how valuable they are in both business and in life as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned this vision and purpose alignment. They're so important for leaders as well.
Yeah.
And we mentioned if we have, I guess this goes back to the why. Why are we doing this?
Yes.
And if we share that with the team, then everyone can get on board. Oh, there's a why.
Yes.
It isn't just that I have to do a task.
Yes, exactly.
That really plays a big role into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing your why, which, you know, is also your purpose, is just so powerful. Like all those things I mentioned, vision, alignment, values, they will all help contribute to your motivation and your growth mindset and overcoming challenges and things like that. But I think what drives you more than anything is your why or your purpose, because that's at the root of everything, of why you're doing what you're doing and why you want to do it.
Nice. And looking more into this mix of dots that you have, what do you think psychology actually brings to your leadership, business, but also your coaching style?
Yeah. It's so funny, you know.
That's a lot of words, right?
Yeah. As I was coming up, like as a leader, a growing and learning leader, there was so much HR, like so much of leadership is, I guess the formal term would be HR, but it's just human, like I've said. And I remember thinking so many times, when staff would come to you and either there's a personal issue or something's happening in their life, or maybe it's a professional issue, but so many times I was drawing on my psychology or therapeutic skills or counseling skills. I remember being like, how do people do this job without having like a psychology or counseling background?
Or self-aware.
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely has, I think, strengthened my leadership skills. But when it comes to my leadership and business coaching and development of the courses, I think it just brings a richer understanding of the how to achieve optimal human performance, but not in a way that is a machine optimal human performance. Optimal human performance should be holistic. It should be the whole person, and work is part of that. It's not one picture. So whenever I work with clients and in the courses that I'm developing, it's really more professional and personal development.
Yeah.
Kind of like how I was talking before, I intertwine the business and purpose and the vision and purpose and things like that to the professional stuff as well as the personal stuff in the courses. So yeah, it's so powerful.
Yeah, I think that's really so important. And then you're mentioning that in a way it's human.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think we have forgotten to be humans?
I think some people have forgotten to be humans. I think some businesses have forgotten to be human. And I see it all the time. I saw it in myself. Being burnt out was honestly like celebrated. People would be, oh my gosh, you work so hard.
It's part of the hustle culture.
Yes. And I hate that. Like, I hate it. Like, in my early 20s, I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, this feels great because everyone celebrates how hard you work. But when I look back, I was like chronically sick and unhealthy. I wasn't looking after myself, and I was just a slave to this business. So that particular business, very not human. And I know that there are so many more out there like that. And it's easy to get caught up in as well. Because when you're in it and you're close to it, it just doesn't feel like there's maybe a way out, or it's really tough. But definitely there are businesses and people who don't really take into account the human side of things, which is so important.
Yeah. And then for someone who actually might have gone through burnout or feels a bit out of alignment, how would you advise them to even start getting back on track?
Yeah. If someone is already burnt out, I mean, my advice is, I always refer to like zones. So you got like a green zone, a yellow zone, and a red zone. And your green zone is happy, calm. Your yellow zone are your warning signs to burnout. If you've got warning signs to burnout, you're just not motivated, you're fatigued, work just isn't feeling the same, you take time off and reassess. Once you get to burnout, that's your red zone. You also need to take time off, but you probably need a longer period of time off. And at that point, my advice is always do a bit of soul searching and what is your ultimate vision? You've got to start with your vision. You can also start with your purpose, but usually it's easier to figure out what your ultimate vision is. Like, what do you want your life to look like? And that's not just material things, although they can be good milestones. Like, some people will say, I want a house, or I want to get married or have kids, or I want to tick things off my travel list. That's fine. That's all great milestones. But you want your vision to be something that sparks emotion in you, that you're like, yes, that is what I want. And actually start thinking about that. And it can take a while. It's not something that you can just think about overnight. Like, my ultimate vision came to me in like over months and months. But at least starting to think about it can really, or what's important to you. If you haven't quite got your whole vision, what's just important to you, start with that and assess if your current situation is sustainable, if it's a setback that you can come back from that's still on the right path for you, or is it time to maybe move on and go somewhere else? Does it align with what you want? So it's tricky and it takes some time, but you've got to give yourself the time to do it, because you've got to get out of the situation, or you won't ever have a clear head.
Yeah, I think this is why self-awareness is so important. But I was working quite a lot on my own self-development, and I ended up still burning out because I didn't realize, oh my gosh, this is a sign of burnt out.
Yes.
So even in my self-development, I was hustling.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we miss out the whole point.
Yes.
It's all about the self.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So often I have to stop and step back myself because in, I guess building Elevareum, which I've been running for just over a year now, there's even been times in that I'm like, I need to chill out a bit. I need to pull back a bit because sometimes, your self-development, as I started Elevareum, I had to learn so many things. The modern day business is very digital. So I had to learn lots of different programs and social media, and I'm still learning so much. And I started to get like learning fatigue. I was like, oh my God, I'm burning out from how much I'm learning. So, but that's when I really try and pay attention to kind of those yellow warning signs that I was talking about. And I really try and pay attention for myself to brain fuzz or fatigue. And, I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where if I work for 4 hours of my day, because, I'm building this business, so there's a lot to do on it. But sometimes I can only do 4 to 5 hours work because it's such cognitively demanding work. I'm learning new things, but you've really got to pay attention to that brain fog that you feel. And that's kind of what we tend to feel in, a normal 8 or 9 hour work day. You get that kind of 3:30itis or something like, oh my gosh, I can't do anymore. And that's hard in a 9 to 5 type job, but that's where you need to be making sure that you're doing things like going for walks and actually, doing a 10-minute meditation or something like that. But if you're in a position where you can finish up early. Just you got to listen to yourself and know that you're probably not going to be that effective if you just push through feeling this way.
Yeah. We spoke a lot about leadership in terms with what I'm looking for as well, to try to decipher conscious leaders. In your opinion, what would you say is a conscious leader?
I think a conscious leader is human, just very human, empathetic, authentic, and very, self-aware and having insight, because you do need to be conscious and cognizant of things around you. But also understanding that work is not everything and leadership is not everything. Like, this is only one part of my life, but it is a part of my life as a whole. So being conscious, I think, is making sure that the decisions that you're making, even in work as well as life, that it's all connected as one holistic thing, they're not in isolation. So, and again, that can sound like a bit of an abstract concept, but once you start applying it in leadership and in your work, it actually does start making a difference to your personal life as well.
Yes. And so many people, like you mentioned before, they really reward performance. Do you think actually presence and the soft skills that you mentioned can actually elevate perhaps what we achieve?
Definitely. I think rewarding performance has huge merit when done in the right way. People need to know that they're doing a good job. But I think having things like depth and presence is what will make you a leader that is easier to follow, easier to trust. It should also be showing that you have integrity, and your team or followers, whatever you want to call them, they will pick up when you're not being genuine, or when you're not saying, when you don't follow through on something, or maybe you say something that they're like, that's not actually true to you. They'll know that. So I think having depth and presence is so important, and it contributes to your integrity and just people's ability to trust you and follow you.
Yes, and I think looking at today's society as well, another issue, but also metrics and algorithms. I've even tested to see, I'm making this content and it's all about conscious leadership. It's all about something giving actual true value. Not perform so well in comparison to stuff I'm like, hey, look at me. That performs well. And then you just wonder, oh my gosh, this everything rewards in a way noise.
Yes.
How can we go about still continue to be conscious leaders? And I'm not sure, how do you look at the future? Do you think this will grow more than the conscious leaders. We need to fight the noise. Or how do you see leadership evolve over time?
I think it is starting to change, which is great. There's so much more talk about vision and purpose, and people are starting to see the value and benefit in that. I think also as the younger generations come up, like we talked about, they value different things. Gen Z is such a prime example, and millennials as well to a certain extent, where, they really want something to fight for, to give them a voice, to give them purpose. And you can do that in business, and you can do it at work, in whatever role you're in, but particularly as a leader, because you get to affect that change and lead that change. So I think for the future, I think it's positive. I don't think we'll see the eradication of, old school leadership in our lifetime, but I think it will definitely change and shift. And we're seeing so much more corporate social responsibility as well, which is really powerful when used in the right way. So it is shifting, it is changing, but I think we need more businesses and conversations like what you're doing here about conscious leadership and how powerful it can be in having a really successful business or a really successful team as a leader. You don't have to run things like it's a ship or, like it's the industrial age.
That's true.
Yeah.
And since you mentioned that leadership more in a holistic point of view, this might be a bit different, but how would you describe success for you? What does success actually look like?
Yeah, I love that question because I think it's so different for everyone. Success for me is definitely, heading towards my vision and living, but also enjoying life along the way. And, I'm literally living in that right now. I am successful to me because I'm living overseas. I'm starting a business that I'm so passionate about, and I get to, have conversations with people like yourself. I get to meet so many amazing people as well as my clients, and I feel successful because I'm so grateful to have these opportunities. And I guess just continuing to work towards my vision feels successful. I don't have to achieve my vision to be like, yes, I've done it. Like I already feel like I'm there.
That's perfect. And sometimes that's the trap.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we put vision boards. Yeah. And then we look at the vision and think, oh, the vision will be when it gets there.
Yeah.
Rather than this journey.
Yeah. I remember when I became a director in my other business, and that felt so big and formal and exciting. And then I became a co-owner in the business, and I was like, tick, 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 like achieved all my goals and then some. But you know what? I didn't feel any different. I wasn't like celebrating like this is amazing. And I think I learned at that time that some people say, you'll never be happy. I don't think it's never about being happy. It's about being content with what you have and the opportunities that you have. And as long as you know that you're working towards something that you're passionate about and that drives you, I think that that's when you really feel successful and just content and happy.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll never be happy. It's so sad.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of living or why you work if you'll never be happy?
Yes, exactly.
It's like dragging it along.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For self-awareness, then, what do you think is a question that leaders should ask themselves, perhaps more often?
Oh, gosh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
What to ask themselves more often? I think really looking at what their own purpose is in their role and what's important to them, but what's also important to their team, because sometimes they're very different. So I think it's really important to be conscious of what's important to your team and individuals in that team, and then what's important to you. And you need to try and find somewhere in the middle that works for everyone. And, that should help you develop a bit of your self-awareness to be like, oh, actually, I'm now conscious of the fact that we're kind of aiming for different things, or different things are important to us. So that's probably one thing to sit down and ponder, is what's important to you, but also then think about your team, what's important to them, or ask your team what's important to them, even better.
That's true. I really agree with that as well. And if there was, now it feels like a truth from there, but If there was one truth about leadership that you would like people to know, what would that be?
One
Or
truth.
maybe something to change the perspective about leadership.
Yeah. Well, leadership is not about power. And you also aren't, I guess in like a visual way, you shouldn't really be at the front of your team or above your team. You should be with your team, kind of walking alongside them, helping them, supporting them, empowering them. And also, if you're the smartest person in the room, I don't know who said this, but it's so true. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You should want your team, people in your team, to be smarter than you, have better ideas than you. That's what makes a great team, is that collaboration and that creativity. You don't need to have all the answers. And so, I would say that that's one truth, and I guess something that's my perspective changed on that, because I came from a place where it was like it's very hierarchical and that's how it's run. But it's not, and I don't think that that's how you're the most effective leader.
Yeah, and I think it's really important how you said that you run with them.
Yes.
Because there's so many actually techniques, and also depends, I guess, on what stages of leadership you might be.
Yeah.
Because I also heard that actually in board leadership, actually you should be not even participating that much.
Yeah.
Because then what about other leaders? Because sometimes you have to manage also other leaders.
Yeah.
And
it
can look like more inside or outside types of leadership.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting that also looking at nature, you can see leadership.
Yeah.
Like wolves leading from the back, or someone at the front.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's not always a perfect, triangle, whatever you want to call it.
If you had one piece of advice that you could share with people about finding their own leadership style, what would you say to them?
Finding their own leadership style. I think my one piece of advice to anybody who wants to, and this would actually apply to anyone, not just leadership, I guess, personal life as well, is think about what you really want in life. And as a leader, think about what you want, where you're headed, give yourself direction. You don't just have to be led by your own superior's vision, because they'll have a different vision to you, but think about what you want as a leader, where you're going, and I mean, also thinking consciously about what type of leader you want to be. Like, I was very clear on who I didn't want to be and who I wanted to be, but also then having that end vision in mind helps you make decisions along the way of like, well, I'm heading towards this. And also if you can start thinking about, if you don't already know your purpose, which should come with what's important to you and what you want to achieve, and as well as your values, thinking about vision, purpose, and values is just so, so powerful. And it will help develop your leadership style over time, and always carrying that consciousness with you so that you are constantly self-aware and reflect and, make sure that you learn from your mistakes or feedback that you get as well.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's a tricky one that we can be very attached as well to the last point or to the purpose or to the vision, and then sometimes we have to walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you should be agile and flexible when it comes to that kind of thing. You will pivot 1,000 times, and you might pivot still towards the same vision potentially. I know I've done that. I've still got this vision of my life in the future, but I've pivoted several times to get there. So I think being kind to yourself as well, and not being so rigid on, but I have to do this to get there. Some things aren't going to work out, and that's okay. And that's part of the learning process. So I think just going with the flow a little bit and accepting that some things aren't going to be perfect. And that's just part of the learning journey.
It's true. It's true. And this is part of the journey. If you were actually meant to meet your younger self, what would you say to yourself? Perhaps as an advice or what comes?
Yeah. I would say be yourself more than you think that you should. You do not need to perform as a leader. People are going to follow you more if you are actually yourself and you have integrity, and don't feel like you have to have all the answers, because that will only hold you back and make you just feel so anxious. So, yeah.
That's really nice. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have to have all the answers, but still good to.
Yeah. Oh, you have to have some answers, but
I was meant to say still good to learn, because we should learn your courses, and I think they sound really fabulous.
Yeah.
And I think in the way of that you're describing leadership is really in such a conscious way.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of things people and businesses should be actually investing in to learn more about.
Yeah.
How to develop leadership.
Yeah.
Not just the hard skill way, but the whole holistic way.
Yeah. And I'm so excited to deliver those kind of things. You know, I go into some businesses and give actual, training days and things like that. And I love that, because that's where I feel like I'm really, having an impact or affecting the change, and all part of that revolution of let's move away from this, very traditional, maybe, stoic male archetype. We don't have to do that to achieve excellent performance of the business and the people within it.
Yeah. And I think as a woman yourself, that must have been in a way a challenge when you started now.
Yes, definitely. The toxic workplace I worked in was led by a male, but whether it was a male or a female who, exhibited that kind of behavior, it wouldn't have mattered. But certainly he was a stereotypical controlling male archetype for sure. But yeah, it's definitely challenging. There are challenges that come with being a woman in leadership. I'm fortunate that one of the business that I have in Australia, it's very female dominated because it's allied health. However, our clients are lawyers, which is, 50-50 female and males. And so, you get some challenges, and you're not always going to make everyone happy as well, or, be effective with everyone. And sometimes that's not on you. So yeah, that's the nuances of human nature.
It's true.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you've been inspired to add? Now it's just like literally an open question. I know, I feel like we've been floated. It was easy.
I know. Look, I know I've already kind of said it, but maybe I can kind of just reiterate about when you think about your vision, and like I said earlier, it needs to spark emotion in you, not just a checklist. Ask yourself, what is the most ultimate version of my future, regardless of anything? Just think about that, because when you start to think about vision, people start to think about the how. Oh, how am I going to do that? You don't need to start with the how. You actually want to start with the why, the why you want to do something. But sometimes it helps to think about what do I really want, that ultimate version of my future, and just start with that. And, start working your way there. However you might get there, like we said, you might have to pivot many times. But as long as you know where you're headed, and you're also, you're quite aware of your purpose and your values, which will help make decisions in the moment, that you'll always feel more satisfied, because you just, you're heading there. So even when you hit setbacks, it's not that challenging. You get over them quicker because you're like, it's all right, I'm still on track towards that ultimate version of my future.
That's amazing. I feel like I need to go back and pivot a few more times. It's been pivoting a few times already, but I know it. So, yeah. I think it's important. It's also important to just let it be. Like you said, sometimes just don't be too attached to that.
Yes. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been such an amazing holistic perspective, because you bring in psychology, which I think we can also attain in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So important to learn, and self-awareness, soft skills, what a good conscious leaders actually looks like.
Yeah.
And so if people would like to get in touch with you, especially for your courses, how can they do that?
Yeah, so they can go,
tell them.
Oh, well, you can go to elevareum.com, and I'm sure we'll spell that in the show notes or something, because it's difficult to spell. And then all on the socials, I'm on TikTok, Elevareum, Instagram, Elevareum Official. So yeah.
Yeah, you've been sharing some really nice content as well. There's so much that
Thank you.
teaching, like
Yeah.
in daily life.
Yes, realistic founder life is one of the hashtags. Because building a business, I like to be real about it as well. It's not a walk in the park, but it's fun. So yeah, I just like to show the realistic side of things as well.
Important.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
It's been great. Thank you so much, listeners.